True Creepy Cemetery Horror Stories, Vol 4, YouTube, English. I can still vividly recall the night my father passed away, as if it were etched into my soul. The chilling memory lingers, haunting my every thought. It was a dark and stormy night, the rain lashing against my apartment window with an eerie rhythm. I was on the brink of leaving for my job as the deputy manager at a bar. I sat alone, the dim glow of the television casting eerie shadows in the room, watching an episode of The Sopranos. The phone began to ring, an ominous omen of the horrors to come. For some inexplicable reason, a strange notion overcame me. I decided to answer the call, thinking it might be work-related or some other frivolous matter. My response was lackluster, reflecting my boredom, but that was soon to change. The news hit me like a freight train, crashing through my world. My father had died suddenly and unexpectedly, his life extinguished by a blood clot in his brain. In one moment, he had been healthy and happy, and in the next, he was declared dead on arrival. The funeral that followed was nothing short of nightmarish. While it might sound cruel, there's some solace in knowing that when a relative is old or terminally ill, loved ones can prepare for the inevitable. But we had no such luxury. Our lives went from mundane to heart-wrenching in the blink of an eye. Instead of gradual acceptance, we were left shell-shocked, unable to fathom the loss that had befallen us. Visiting graves had never been my forte. It seemed like a pointless ritual, as the deceased remained blissfully unaware of our gestures. I often thought that a simple raised beer glass would suffice as a tribute to my memory when my time came. But when it came to my father, I desperately sought closure. My visits to his grave became a routine. From weekly to monthly, I'd sit there, drink his favorite lager, and speak to him about my life, though it offered little solace. Still, I felt myself inching along the treacherous path of grief, one baby step at a time. One fateful day, as I performed my ritual, I noticed a stranger near his burial site. The man was dressed entirely in black, a long coat draping over him, and a dark umbrella in hand. At first, I dismissed it as a coincidence, attributing it to the privacy that grief-stricken individuals sought in a cemetery. But then, it happened again and again. The same man, always near my father's grave. My curiosity grew, and I decided to investigate discreetly. I wanted to confirm if he was truly visiting my father's resting place or merely an adjacent one. As I approached stealthily, I watched him kneel down and touch the headstone. I didn't recognize him from the funeral, and I was certain we had never crossed paths. My determination got the best of me, and I resolved to uncover the truth. I closed in on him, trying to maintain my cover, but when he saw me, his eyes widened in shock. Panic overtook him, and he bolted through the cemetery, with me in hot pursuit. I couldn't let him escape. I needed answers. Amid the graves, I gave chase, shouting for him to stop, desperate for a conversation. Onlookers watched in horror and disbelief, but I paid no heed. I had to know. Eventually, I caught up to him, near an exit, gripping his arm, forcing him to face me, and what I saw sent shivers down my spine, a face identical to my father's. It was him, or so it seemed, with subtle differences in his demeanor, accent, and stature. He told me to leave him alone and sprinted away once more. leaving me shaken to the core. After a discussion with my mother, we were left with the unsettling notion that this man might be my father's identical twin. Despite my father's death being confirmed, there was no mention of a sibling, let alone a twin. We resolved to investigate further, yearning to understand this mysterious connection. For a long time, I tended to graves in a rural Georgia cemetery. The job was simple: clean the tombstones and maintain the grounds. But the eerie surroundings, surrounded by dense forests, gave the place a haunting vibe. One night, as I did my rounds, I had to enter the small mausoleum. Candlelight flickered from within, and faint voices echoed. Curiosity got the best of me, and I ventured inside, only to find an unsettling scene. A child-sized skeleton lay exposed in a grave, alongside a grinning old doll. The security officer and I investigated, but found no one. It seemed like a cruel prank. I quit the next day, unable to shake the unsettling memory. After leaving high school and my parents' home, I took a job as a gravedigger, desperate for rent money. One day, my boss asked if I had been near the private plots reserved for wealthier families. I hadn't, but he explained that someone or something had tried to dig up a fresh grave there. I was tasked with being the night watchman, patrolling the cemetery. It was lonely, but the extra pay was enticing. On one fateful night, I encountered a figure digging frantically in the northwest plot. When I shone my flashlight on it, I expected an animal, but my heart froze. It was a person, on all fours, digging with bare hands. Fear paralyzed me, and I didn't fire the rifle. I confronted the intruder, and the fury in their eyes sent chills down my spine. They left, but I couldn't forget that nightmarish encounter. My coworkers didn't believe me, dismissing it as a wild animal. But I knew what I had seen: a person, a grave-digging intruder. As days turned into weeks, I grappled with the disturbing memory of that encounter. My coworkers remained skeptical, chalking it up to my overactive imagination or exhaustion from night duty. But I knew I couldn't let it go. The incident weighed heavily on my mind, and curiosity gnawed at me like a relentless demon. I needed answers, closure, and the strange events at the cemetery demanded an explanation. I began researching the cemetery's history, scouring old records and local archives. It was painstaking work, but I was determined to unearth any hidden secrets lurking beneath the graveyard's eerie facade. My quest for the truth led me to a long-forgotten news article from decades past. It was a story about a wealthy family whose fortunes had crumbled, ultimately leading to their burial plots being reclaimed by the cemetery due to unpaid fees. The family's name sent a shiver down my spine, the same name etched on the mausoleum I had once explored. As I delved deeper, I discovered a sinister twist. The family's last surviving member, a reclusive recluse, had died under mysterious circumstances. His body never found. Rumors circulated that he had been dabbling in the occult, attempting to commune with the dead and perform unspeakable rituals. With a sense of dread that gnawed at my soul, I realized that my unsettling encounters at the cemetery might be connected to this family's dark history. It was a chilling thought, one that I couldn't shake. Armed with this newfound information, I decided to revisit the cemetery at night. I needed to confront whatever malevolent force or restless spirit might be lingering there. I knew it was a dangerous undertaking, but my determination outweighed my fear. As I entered the cemetery once more, the moon cast an eerie glow over the tombstones, and the air was thick with an otherworldly presence. I made my way toward the northwest plot, the epicenter of the strange occurrences. There, in the dim moonlight, I saw a shadowy figure. It was a spectre, ethereal and translucent, hovering over one of the graves. It radiated an aura of grief, anger, and longing. I approached cautiously, my heart pounding in my chest. The apparition turned toward me, its spectral eyes locking onto mine. It spoke, its voice a haunting whisper that echoed through the graveyard. It revealed the truth, the restless spirit of the last surviving family member, trapped between the worlds of the living and the dead, tormented by the curse of his own making. Tears welled up in the spirit's eyes as it recounted its tragic tale, the desperation that had driven it to perform dark rituals, the unfathomable consequences, and the eternal suffering that followed. I listened, my heart heavy with empathy and sorrow. I understood that this tormented soul sought release, a way to find peace and redemption. It had been trying to communicate, to convey its anguish and despair, through the disturbing acts that had brought me to this point. With a heavy heart, I promised to help the spirit find closure. I vowed to seek out a way to break the curse that bound it to this world, to ensure that it could finally rest in peace. As I left the cemetery that night, I knew that my journey was far from over. I had embarked on a path fraught with danger and darkness, but it was a path I had chosen willingly, driven by a determination to bring an end to the haunting horrors that had plagued the graveyard for so long. Little did I know that the secrets hidden within the cemetery's depths would lead me down a twisted and terrifying path, where the line between the living and the dead blurred, and where the true nature of the horrors that lurked in the shadows would be revealed in all its bone-chilling glory.